Hi everyone, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Right, we have three people. Also, first of all, I have logged into a wrong link earlier, so that's why I was late. So I was wondering why no one was there. Right. First of all, um, I sincerely think that you're spending some time in studying because it is needed for us to progress. And last week we were discussing about the market integrity. What is a fair market? What is the benefit of a fair market? So these are important. Control bar. So these are important because we were talking about uh, fair and orderly market. So fair and orderly market is always giving investors confidence. That is a main point which you need to remember, and making environment for firms to get more funding by way of investments, and having proper liquidity is also giving confidence to investors. We can transact so that any in instance of where he wants to liquidate the money, he can do that. So those are the benefits. So you need to make sure that you know all the benefits, because these will be part of the questions. And we're talking about fairness and price sensitive information. So any place where we are talking about price sensitive information, that is mainly meant to mean price sensitive non-public information. So that is where it is subject to insider trading. We talked about that, and that is criminal offense. Why criminal offense? Because it ruins the whole market, and it's a criminal thing because you are making use of information which is not publicly available for your own benefit, which is a criminal offense in most of the countries, or rather all of the countries. And we discuss about some people can use the insider information, but for these purposes, as a market maker who need to know the information, and if the information is already in the market, then you will not be found fault for having that information and using that information. And people who are dealing with price stabilizations, so those can have the inside information, but these are exceptions. General rule, no one should be given the inside information, but these can be defenses for inside information taken. So if there's any question, it will ask like who or what instance the people can defend them for providing inside information. So answers will be, one of the answers will be market makers who are not being found guilty for having the inside information, or rather passing the information. And if the information is already in the market, then you can defend yourself saying that I didn't pass inside information, they were not inside information because they were already in the market. And if you pass the information to the people who are dealing with price stabilization, then that is also not an offense. So those are three exceptions only. We talk about the Chinese wall, how information can be uh, prevented being leaking out to other part of or conflict of interest within the firm, and we discuss about how and what things can be divided. So we had a discussion session as well, and this is important. Insider list, inside list is to be maintained because you need to make sure that this information is controlled and people are being under surveillance by the compliance, because it cannot leak. Because in case that we were talking about two lists, permanent list and the permanent list, where the permanent insiders who are permanently inside, and some people are becoming insiders because of incidents or things that is going to happen. Watch list and restricted list. We were talking about this list, and I ask you to find out what are the information that have been listed in those lists, what sort of information that has to be there. And because we are not restricting only that person, we are restriction on applies only to their close family members as well. Personal account dealings with the close family members as well. Gift and benefit in kind, we discuss about what gifts can be seen as problematic, or rather influencing you to make a different decision than you would normally make. So these can be of part of the questions. In conflict of interest policies, the reasonable steps that you need to take to prevent any conflict of interest. And whistleblowing, we said that whistleblowers has to be protected, and there are rules which has already come in. So whistleblower protection, because if there's any unethical thing happening, illegal thing happening, that need to be reported either to management or even higher to the regulators. And in that, the protection of the whistleblowers is important. So therefore there are legislations passed in US and UK both, so you need to know them. So and we are coming to fair conduct. We didn't do anything here, right? This is where we stopped last week.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So before we start, just a quick look at a few things. Can we quickly right, these are things that I asked you to check last week on what are the things that need to be included. Can you quickly answer now? Now we need to speed up, okay? So we need to give the answers fast. We discussed this question last week. I'm just putting it back. I need the answers from everyone. There are two more to answer. Two more people. Okay, I can't wait for that long. So, see, the question, you need to read it properly. Number one. So that's why I'm making you to practice a bit on this. Like, which of the following is not needed to be recorded? So what should not be recorded is, out of this, is A, the name of the person who identified the individual as being an insider. And second one is the identity of each person who has access to the inside information, which is vital information that need to be in the insider list. And reason why person is in the inside list is very important, because why, whether this is going to be a permanent or whether this going to be person is having which kind of information is very important. So why, which information is it the information about a particular deal, or is it information about the companies inside, something is happening inside, or whether that is information of the portfolio of the client that person is handling, or investments that person is handling. The date on which the insider list was created and updated Yeah, that's important because it has to be up to date all time, and anyone who's looking at it should not be looking at it outdated one. So when someone in the compliance or head of compliance or CEO is looking at the list, he should be able to understand, okay, this list is up to date, or whether this is the previous list. No, this is not the list that I'm looking for. I'm looking for this month list. So he should be able to know about it. So number one is the answer, or A is the answer. The name of the person who identified. Now we need to read the English properly also here. The name of the person who identified the individual as being an insider. That is, if I identified you as an insider, my name is of no use because it's not a criteria. Insiders are identified by objectively by information that these people are holding at a particular time or as their role requirement. So therefore, A is the answer. B, C, D are all things that need to have in the list. So, which means we need to go back and identify what are the things that need to be in the list and out of the list. This one. "18 seconds, 19 seconds. These questions should be answers in a flash. Now here there's no not in it, okay? Okay. So restricted list is under what topic? What's the topic we discussed?
And market integrity.
Okay. And under that?
The insider list is 2.4 I think it's 2.4, something like that. It's under including the watch list.
Right.
And watch and restricted list.
Okay. Then where should it be classified under? Restricted lists are to be maintained as a part of firm's procedure of what? Corporate social responsibility? No, it is not. Insider dealing, Chinese wall, or price stability? Price stability is odd answer here, so it's nothing to do with this. And Chinese wall or insider dealing? It's about insider dealing. We're talking about insider dealing in terms of restricted information. What is insider information? We discussed non-public, price-sensitive information. Insider dealing is if someone is leaking out non-public, price-sensitive information. So, restricted list is a list of people who are holding that kind of insider information permanently. Like, if I'm working for Treasury, I have most of the investment information that I have, or that the hypothesis that we have built, or expectations, or the trends, everything we have. So I have a good idea of what a price sensitive information is. So I'll be in a restricted list. But if you're working for, I'm taking the same example, HR department, your what information that you have in price sensitive information, employee information you will have, but that's not price sensitive, right? So you will become an insider when a merger is happening, because you will know it beforehand. But public, it's not public, but it's price sensitive information if a merger is happening, for your shares will either go up or down. So at that time you will not be in a restricted list, you'll be in a watch list, or you will not be in a permanent list, or you will be in a list where you will be temporarily included in insider list. So therefore your insider dealing capability is in relation to the non-public, price sensitive information. Therefore, restricted list is maintained to protect, or rather do some good close look at those people by compliance department and any other governance departments to see that these people are not leaking information out. So answer is B in this one. Why not Chinese wall? Is Chinese wall is protecting information where a conflict of interest can happen within the company. So there you are not having a restricted list as such, because you're separating these two divisions because of the because of the sensitivity of information, and which is conflict of interest. For example, investment arm and advisory. So if you're advising customers, and if your investment arm is doing an investment analysis for other people, for other companies, for other people, for other companies, then you should be having a conflict of interest there. So therefore, the Chinese wall is to make sure the information is not being shared by same set of people. There we are not talking about restricted lists. Are we agreeing, or do you have different view which we need to clarify?
I think that is correct.
Yeah. So make sure that, I mean, sometimes it's like, think simple. Okay, have we discussed about restricted list under Chinese wall or insider list, or rather
It was under insider list.
Yeah, just choose that. Just choose that when it comes to that kind of answers, right? Yeah. Don't think too much. If you think too much, that will also be difficult to answer. And mind you, I asked these questions last week also, so it's not new questions. We discussed same thing, so we need to make sure that we properly understand this. So that's why I'm putting it back again. And I still can see that people are making some errors there, so that's why I'm discussing it back again. I know that you will go wrong, that's why. Oh, sorry, this I told you, just took or miss. This is being asked throughout the course, and this understanding is really important, because CISI, FCA are all onto this. So I want exactly right answer on this one. Think simple. What are the things that we have discussed under this one? Okay. Now, this is not theory, this is logic. What is one of the potential benefits of using principles? Now, I again ask you to think simple, because whether that is principle based or rule based, there are deliverables of these, the principle based and rule based both, right? Clarification of rules are of no use. Enhanced fiduciary responsibilities. So fiduciary responsibilities will be enhanced by the compliance, rules and regulations, everything. So how rules and regulations are coming are two different ways. It's principle based or rule based. But this enhanced fiduciary responsibility applies for both of them. because it's at a high level. Like, you need to have your compliance environment, it is set up there, and you have to have enhanced fiduciary responsibility. That's the objective of it. Underneath that, how it is being done or how tactically it is being handled by the regulators will be two different types. One is rule based, one is principle based. So depending on principle based or rule based, this is not going to change. And improved self-interest, I don't know, it's nothing to discuss even. So the answer is the first one, because it increases the flexibility. Because even though this question do not continue to say that what is the potential benefit of using principle based approach as against the rule based approach, what it says is that, what it stands is that. So when you're reading the question, you need to understand what is going on in the heads of examiner. That's why I told you they are going really based on this one, so they are really keen on this principle and rule based approach, and their questions sometimes is with that mentality. So you need to be in the same mentality, otherwise, because this other part of the question is not there, you might choose a wrong answer. So what is one of the potential benefits of using principle based approach as against the rule based approach? That is the question that they have asked. They have not completed the question, because this is understood when you are in that mindset. But if you're not in the mindset, then there's a chance. I mean, it's not your error, but you need to make sure that you go into what they are actually thinking. So that's why when I'm discussing, I'm stressing on certain things. That's why you can't just read the book and answer these questions. Okay, so that's why it's very important to be in the class. And the first answer is the one, increased flexibility, because we discussed about the characteristics of principle based and rule based approach. So that is a core within this total of exam. Make sure that you know about it and you go through it properly and get the basics of it, right? This is a basic question. So the first two answers, the segregate duties between control functions, roles, and help manage conflict of interest. So if you take the basics, the answer is B, because help manage conflict of interest is the main duty of Chinese wall. Segregation of duties between control functions, I am also having doubt on that. So what can we do when we have a doubt? We'll go back there and check whether they have by any chance used any words like that. Okay, there's nothing like that. So firms to manage conflict of interest is the key. So that is what the answer is. Answer is B. Okay, so that's enough for now. Oops. and the other ones. It's just last week also, I'm just bringing it up again. So FCA, Financial Conduct Authority, what are they giving? What are these? Is this rule based or principle based? This rule, Fair Conduct Authority. Oh, sorry, fair conduct of for the customers. What is this?
Principle based.
Yeah, they are principle based, because why? They're giving the outcomes that you need to achieve and not the rule. So again, as I told you, like even if we even whether we discussed about principle based and rule based in the first lesson or first part, throughout this they are bringing it up, and it's very important. That's why I told you that their mentality is working on that, right? So fair dealing. What's fair dealing is, we didn't discuss this, right? Okay. Right. So what's fair dealing? Under this, we are going to discuss, understand how associated but non-traditional activities impact the firm. Product design, non-traditional activities, because non-traditional activities means the earlier time, like maybe a few decades ago, the firms were not involved in these kind of things, or rather many firms were not included in this kind of activities, but now most of them, because investment trade, or rather the capital markets, have developed over the last few decades, and in developed markets like US, UK and Europe, so they are pretty much developed in the past few decades. So that's why it talks about which were not traditional activities, non-traditional activities that investment firms are doing. Earlier, these activities were done by outside firms. So product design and marketing would have been done by the product design, financial product design companies, but now it's done by the marketplace itself. And financial promotions, advertising wouldn't have been a case earlier. And client documentation is pretty important, because there were so many incidents where you couldn't recover, or you will have to face litigation because documentations were not right. And fair contracts were also important, because when your contracts are not fairly done, when the clients take you to courts, your contracts will be thrown out of the window, which means then the court will define on the favor of the client, and you will be out of business. It's very difficult situations when you don't have the contract, and you might have experienced that when you do the business also, right? So we had some cases where clients were given loans without getting all the signatures, which is very transparent that client has got a loan and documentation was signed as they had taken the loan, but because all signatures were not taken, sometimes if you give a collateral, cashback, if you're not taken the signature to recover it from the cash that you have already in the deposit, you might face so many difficulties in recovering it, because the client's lawyers will go to courts and say that, well, yes, we have taken a loan, we will pay 5,000 a month, that's all what we can do. His deposit, there's no signature taken on that, so it's not applicable. Ultimately, we'll lose everything. Okay, briefly on the product design and marketing. So regulators regulate financial product. Why? Because you can't just advertise like soap or anything like that. The financial product, you can't say that this is the best out of the market and this is the best soap which will make you younger by 25 years or something like that, because that's not how the financial market should work, because it's regulated. And when it comes to retail products, especially like soap or shampoo, you can advertise whatever you want, but here you can't, because it's a financial product and you're giving it to people who do not have specific knowledge. These are very basic things. Sorry, I'm repeating, but you need to make sure that you understand how they're projecting it. Retail market is giving it to public. So in terms of that, how you design and how you market has to be fair in the hands of the regulators. The regulator assesses whether the firm ensure that the fair treatment of customer is built into their governance and oversight arrangements. So that regulator has to satisfy themselves that the fair treatment, I told you earlier, FCA giving a principle-based outcomes. So you need to meet that, and once regulator check it, they should be satisfied. Okay, fine, our outcomes are being met. Most of the time it's not rules. Even in Sri Lanka, it's not rules. So mostly fair treatment, customer charters, and all these things are coming up to respond this methodically. And in terms of governance and oversight, and in designing the target market, or when you're marketing into the target market, it has to be the intended proper shape and size, and design has to meet the proper customer needs, and it should not overshoot, or rather it should not glorify the story. These are very strict rules. And distributors or distribution in the hands of distributors also, it has to be protected. So you have certain people or certain companies who are marketing these products, the retail customers. They can't do anything which is against the fairness of the design and intended market. They can't just go and try to sell as much as possible because they are going to get some commission out of it. It's not going to work like that. They have to represent the same genuine product to the market. So out of this, what regulators expect is, in detail, is governance and oversight. They are looking at board engaged in ensuring the product deliver the right outcome to the customers. Again, outcomes, okay, principle. And clearly allocate responsibilities for oversight and product governance. So how a product is being governed, whether that's actually showing the right picture, whether the risk levels are properly being given to customers as information, and the effective inclusions of control functions such as compliance in oversight arrangements. So the compliance is overseeing this design and marketing product process. We are specifically talking about design and marketing, okay? And policies and procedures. So compliance should be able to see like whether are you just trying to fool the customers. If that is the case, you need to revert back. And policies and procedures that support the design product appropriate to specific target market. This always says, like, when you're marketing something, you need to make sure that the target market understand this, and also it is that specifically the level that target market will understand. And a clear consideration of what customer usage or needs a product would not fulfill. So you need to make sure that you're not doing the wrong thing to the customers, an unfair thing to customers because of their knowledge gap. Fair trade is for the customers who are like retail customers and they don't know. That's the main underlying policy. And target market is possible, reasonable in terms of size and shape, and product design meet the customer's need, not simply copying the competitor's product. So you basically, product is customized to the target market. Distribution, when it comes to, you have the distributors, so control in place to ensure distribution channels and strategy are compatible with the target market, and you should not let this distributor just go and market it to anyone who sees who see them on the road. Detail of target market, product features, and risk being accurately conveyed to the distributor. So if there's a risk in the product, when distributors are explaining that to the customers, you should get them into the same page and make sure that the distributors understand what the risk is. If a customer is risk averse, then you need to make sure that, okay, this product might not suit you, so they should be able to give the proper advice on this one. And the firm taking action to address any mismatches between the actual distribution sales and intended target market. So by any chance, if you can see your distributor is going haywire on trying to get the product to everyone, so you need to make sure that you are controlling it and putting it back, and this is very much of a governed marketing strategy that you need to follow. So financial promotion and advertising firm to ensure that the communications are fair, clear, and not misleading. This can lead to mis-selling if you do the financial promotions and advertising not so clear, or if it is mislead. Customers can always quote what you're advertising and promotions and say that this is a feature that it is not there, and you were just telling us this is a risk-free investment, whereas you have gone in and invested in debentures, or you've gone and invested in risky companies' shares, and here what has happened now, I have lost my investment, and it's a mis-selling, and you will be bearing the loss on behalf of the customers if you're just trying to do misleading information in your advertising. So compliance function should oversee this. Because why? Because it is not because compliance function is going to design the advertising. It's no, they're not. Why they are going to look at it is to reduce that compliance risk, because the financial firms are asked to communicate fair, clear, and not misleading message only. If they don't do it, it becomes mis-selling and part of the business of compliance, because behavior of the marketing department or the advertising or whatever communication that you're doing with the customers, whether that complies with the rules governing financial promotions and advertising standards. If there's any advertising standard that you have, sometimes you not have advertising standards, but you commonly need to govern how it is being done as a compliance department, and whether that is appropriate and proportionate, which means the level of details provided to retail client is not needed for professionals. Like if your product is being marketed to investment advisors or other investment firms, pension funds, those are professionals. They know, they do understand. They will need only few kind of information, where what your risk level is, what your ROI is, and all these things in the past, and how it will behave, and what other things. So they are professionals. They just can gather few information. So you providing the sufficient level of information for those professional firms is not mis-selling or not giving proper information. It is depending on who need to be getting that information. You can provide the information, because fairness is what need to be done. And if you're giving it to a pension fund, the information is very brief or maybe very detailed, but not as much as what you're providing the descriptions to the retail market client. A retail market client, you can't expect them to have any professional knowledge of investments, so you need to make sure that you're properly defining everything as we discussed earlier. So firms should ensure that any risk to capital is made clear when it comes to retail customers, obviously. Quoting of yield gives a balanced impression. So what is higher, what is lower, what is medium, what can you expect, what are the qualifiers, like if economic, whatever, the development is at this rate, this will be your outcome, and if it is not, this is your minimum, and this is minimum that we have guaranteed. And also, if there's a complex charges, then you need to fairly communicate that and tell them that these are the charges, and you can't just have charges later on whenever you think. And by any chance, if customer wants to take a matter up with the regulator, you need to provide the regulator's information. This is financial ombudsman, and this is my financial regulator. So how you make sure that your complaint will be heard by the right authority. So other firms, distributors, or intermediaries using promotional literature made by other firm is responsible. Like, I am the investment firm, I make these investment advertisements and promotional materials and all these things. My brokers or my the investment advisors who are in the market are promoting this product to their customers. In those instances, even if they are using my material, they should make sure that the proper authority is taken, and this is my official material, and we are not just over glorifying this. Communicate it only to intended recipients, so they also need to follow what I am following as investment firm. I'm following as the firm who's marketing the investments. The promotion is still fair and not misleading, even though they are using it on behalf of me. So if they're using it on behalf of me, we need to monitor that. Our compliance department need to monitor that, whether they are just going into the market and providing wrong information. So that is also a responsibility of principal. The client documentation. So regulated firms, underlying regulated firms, need to provide clients with the documentation depending on the product and role. So key product information that need to be provided, the prospective terms and conditions, all these things. And suitability report, this is something new for you, right? So because key product information, yes, we are providing other brochures and everything, but suitability report based on assessment of the client's need and their risk appetite. So this document will safeguard you in case of later on incident where the client is going and say that they have mis-sold me, which is not suitable for me, they have sold it to me or something like that. You can show that this is the suitability report that we have based on the information that you have provided me. You have told me that this is your pension fund and this is the only money that you have, so that's why I have advised you to put it on the secured investments, which might have yielded you a lesser amount in terms of interest or in terms of earnings. But why I provided that information is because you cannot take any risk with your end of employment, whatever the amount that you have received. So that's why I'm giving it. So likewise, you should be able to provide. And if someone comes and say this is money that I'm going to invest, I need higher return, so you need to list it down in the suitability report to say that okay, this is the client's demand, and this is not this like life-threatening something, or he's not going to put all his eggs in one basket. So therefore, we have suggested him the high yield investment, but to see that investment has not yield, that's a market condition. But why we have decided that, or why we have advised him, is based on these conditions. So it's very, very important document to keep and get per client signature on this one. And contract note or deal confirmation, which is obvious. Cancellation and cooling off rights. So cancellation rights and cooling off rights. What are the cooling off? What do you mean by cooling off rights? Do you know what this word is? Cooling off period, cooling off rights. Alright, so this is more of the British word. So cooling off period is given to any customer where they can feel the product or experience the product, and if they don't like, they can return. I'm not talking about specifically this one, but any product, even if you take a phone, even if you take glasses, as a statutory cooling off periods given for most of the things, like 14 days. Within 14 days, even if you use it, okay, you use a computer, you don't like it, and it's your statutory right, within 14 days you can go and return and ask for the money back. And unlike in other Sri Lankan companies, they are not asking you the reasons or anything, because it's statutory cooling off rights. I don't like it, I'm returning it, give my money back if you have not done anything harm, anything. But if you use it, and the seller can't say anything, and even the packaging is thrown away, the seller can't say anything, they need to just take it back. So that's how most of the sales are happening. So there's a statutory cooling off periods. Even a vehicle, when you buy a vehicle, sometimes you can buy vehicles online, you just don't have to go and check everything, you can buy online, and there's a statutory cooling off period of 14 days or 30 days, 20 days or something like that. Within that period you ride it, there's nothing wrong in the vehicle, but you still can return it. because it's your statutory right of returning it. You can return it and get the money back. And even if you buy a brand new something from the shop, same thing. You have the cooling off rights for certain products and goods. So same right is there for the investment products also. So cancellation or cooling off rights has to be properly documented. Now sometimes if you're getting into an investment, like you go and invest in company A, there is no cooling off period for that, right? Because you go and invest in it, and in 1 week's time you can't say that it's my cooling off period, the share has gone down by 50%, I'm returning the share, give me the money back. And that's not the case. So in that case you need to make sure that you properly define. But if it says that you're a mixed fund, or you're a fund where the customers don't come and tell you invest in company A, company B or company C, you're telling them, okay, you give me your money, I'll make sure that you will get somewhere between 5 to 6% or 5 to 10% within the next 1 year. So it's my package product. In that case, yes, you will have some cooling off period. Like if you say that that's not going to work, I'm going to cancel, get my money back. So they should be able to. But if there's no cooling off period, that need to be properly documented and signed off, unless there's a statutory right that people have. So that's cancelling and cooling off period rights. So it needs to be documented. So important part is you need to document it. Later on you should not be getting into conflict. And regular statements, any additional investments and income reinvested need to be given as an investment. So you invest in 3 months and your customer has not come back, but you have invested with the return to the next one, you need to send any statement and say that you didn't respond to me, so what we did the best is to reinvest it in a similar kind of investment. And tax certificates, there has to be documents that properly need to be maintained, and annual and interim reports issued by the product provider. If there is shares, then annual reports and all these things. And if it is anything of debentures or any loan, that whatever the provided information, annual and interim reports that are provided to the investors. So it's your duty now, because you are investing on behalf of, or you are dealing these shares or investments on behalf of a retail customer who does not have expert knowledge or professional knowledge of investment. You need to maintain that. And the last one is to fair contract. So firms should get the proper contract, and then you know that if you're in a bank or the client documentation is important to get the proper contract. So it says so many lengthy pages of written document, yes, because you need to cover everything. So this can also be something like that. Firm should be in good time before the retail client is bound by agreement, should communicate. So you need to give time. You know that sometimes when you go to a bank to open account, they give this size of a big booklet to sign. This is our customer terms and regulations. Can you please put your signature here? Take the time to read it. And even if you're given time, can you read it? That's a so lengthy document, right? So catch is, if you do it in this kind of environment, chances are the customers will come back and say that, well, you just asked me to sign it here, but it's too technical document, I couldn't read it. You didn't give me enough time and space for me to read it. You just wanted me to sign it. So to avoid that, to get into fair contract, you need to send the customer the agreement first. You read it and come back and tell that you have satisfied with that. And if you have any clarifications, you can come back to me. If you don't understand technical words, please come back to me. So they are to do that, and the terms of agreement has to be properly given, and firm and its services related to that agreement has to be provided, authorized communication, conflict of interest, and the whatever the things that firm can do on behalf of you. So client need to make sure that they know about what you will do on behalf of the client, and website with sufficient details so that if a customer wants to go in and check the details of ownership, all these things, and how your past conduct and all these things has to be there on your website. So which is very important. Like we know that we don't practice it in Sri Lanka. Sometimes website is not the most up-to-date thing that we sometimes use, which is a waste actually. So but here it is different. So what examiner will understand is different, because websites are normally the official mode of communication, and which is up to date always. So FCA, PRA, we know that PRA, right? Prudential Regulatory Authority. So MiFID, all these rules governs. If unable to provide good time early due to valid reason, or telephone deals, like you call and get the deal confirmed, just after that send the agreement to the customer, so that customer will have the copy of the agreement. Like let's say if it is something, the information just came into the market about a merger or acquisition or something like that, and your customer needs to get this deal, so you call the customer and say that hey Mr. X, this deal is there, do you want to go for it? And he also has got to know about this deal and he is so keen about it. Okay, fine, let's make it. And you do it with the telephone, but there's no time frame that you can send the contract. So as soon as you do the deal, close the deal and send the contract, so that customer knows what conditions will apply to the deal that he has just closed. And we discussed about this act earlier as well, Unfair Contract Terms Act. So this is very important. Limit the execution of if agent against the clients. So you can't limit everything with the client, and restrict the operations and legality of some contract terms. Disclaimers. So now sometimes you're seeing disclaimers, right? Now just to understand the disclaimer, a disclaimer has to be reasonable and it should be legal. And also exclusion limiting liability and make an ineffective or subject to reasonableness. So it has to be reasonable. You can't just exclude everything possible. Okay, so just to understand, you're seeing this sign in car parks, right? Park at your own risk. So what does that mean? What's your own risk? That's a disclaimer. That's an exclusion clause. We call exclusion clause in contracts. Limiting liability. So you see that board in the car park, park at your own risk. What are the risks that you can expect in a parking? No risk? What can happen if you park your vehicle in a car park like that? What would you normally think a risk? Nothing?
Can be like, can you repeat that question again, please?
If you go to car park which says that park at your own risk, so what are the risks that you can expect?
Yeah, removing on spare parts, even the car can be stolen.
Yeah. And someone reversing into your car
and hit the car and can be damaged.
So is the car park responsible for these things?
No, because they are already putting this thing, so no
Right.
Parking on your risk.
Okay, so is it a total exclusion? Let's say car park has a roof here now, and roof was not maintained properly and it collapsed on your vehicle. How would you deal with that risk?
It also depends on the insurance if they have, but then it's their they also have a responsibility to.
Now, if they say that park at your own risk, we have already told you that you're parking your own risk, and this has happened now, we can't be responsible for it.
But then it's also coming on the maintenance. They also have to have a place where it's okay. Stealing or removing on spare parts or accident is a different thing, but collapsing of the roof is a negligence of the car park.
Are they responsible or not?
They are responsible.
So can they rely on that exclusion clause, disclaimer? Park at your own risk.
No, I don't think they can do that because it's not a.
It's not a normally
like,
expected risk. Yeah,
exactly.
It's not normally expected risk of a car park. So car park can
Yes.
happen. So similarly, when you go on a theme park, you'll have to sign to say that anything happened due to your medical conditions or any of the extreme activities, we are not responsible for it. So if someone goes in that, I don't know what do you call it? What do you call that? The toll thingy where you throw up and down, whatever. So you go up and down there, and you got something on a brain stroke, and you got a stroke, and you die. Are they responsible for it?
If person gets a stroke and die, I don't
No,
think unless it's
not get a heart stroke kind of a thing because of that
a
sudden
jerk.
action jerk. Is the theme park responsible for it?
Unless they didn't have the safety features like the belts and stuff.
No, there were 20
That-
others. 20 others were okay. This person died.
But that will not be a waiver. Just because 20 others survived and one person died cannot taken as a waiver.
So are they responsible or not?
Yes,
Can
they
they
should
rely?
be yeah, they have to be responsible for the safety, basically.
No, nothing happened. Like, let's say, okay, another example, you go on roller coaster and you go because of the fear, you got some medical condition because of the speed that it traveled. Is theme park responsible for it?
In that case, I don't think that theme park has to be responsible because
Yeah, because they'll get you to sign, say that.
yeah,
I mean, even in the previous case, the theme park is not responsible because
responsible.
you got a stroke or you got a fear and you got a shock of your life. That's expected. That's what they are saying. But let's say the same roller coaster goes because it goes so fast and it goes off the track and flies off the track and lands on the ground about 100 feet down. Is the theme park responsible for it?
Yeah, then it's responsible. It happened in Sri Lanka at Bihar Mahadev Park at some point, long time ago. One of those things
Was
went
it?
and yeah, it landed
Uh,
near the Lipton Circus. And they
Ah.
were fault with the coach. They had paid a lot of money.
Oh, was that the reason that they stopped that for some time ago?
Yes, exactly.
Ah,
They were asked to stop it.
okay. So yeah, because it is about the expected level of risk. So similarly, there is level of expected risk in the dealings of the investment, but disclaimers can cover only that level of risk. Your negligence, like roller coaster flying off the track, is because you've been negligent. You have to be responsible for it. You can't hide behind the disclaimer or exclusion clause. So, therefore, similarly, the Unfair Contract Terms Act is limiting you from disclaiming anything or excluding anything. And also, sometimes you work in a factory where a lot of machinery are working, a lot of turning wheels and machineries are working. And if employer puts a term and get you to sign to say that anything happened to you, your arm, or even if you lose your arm, or even if you get injured due to the machinery, we are not responsible because this is a factory where the machinery is being used. Exclusion clause. The employee signs. And one day the employee's hair got captured in one of these machineries and got injured severely. Is the company responsible for it? Or can they rely on the exclusion clause?
No, in this case, they cannot rely on the exclusion clause because it's unless even it's just a machinery, because I remember we had a case here, like, it happened. And when the case went to the labor court, they said you can give any clauses to the employee because they want a job, they will sign. But then it's the responsibility of the manager or the company to ensure that this negligence are not taking place, the adequate precautionary measures.
Exactly. So even if people agree, even if people signed any document, this act, Unfair Contract Terms Act, specifically says that they're ineffective if it is not reasonable. So like that, you really correct to say that the employee will sign anything, because you can't just argue with the employer on this act, on the terms. But it is when you go into in front of the court of law, they will make them null and void and say that sorry, you can't put that kind of terms, even if they signed, even if they agree or anything like that, it's unfair. So unfair contract terms cannot be withheld in the court of law. So that is applicable here as well in the investment firms when they're going into an activity, when they're going to sign up for contracts or investments. They can put all terms and regulations in it, but it doesn't mean that they are being taken seriously. So they will always not be they will not be able to hide behind those disclaimers and exclusion clauses unless there are normal risks or expected risks that is being properly explained to the customer, like market conditions going up and down. But if you have suggested the wrong investment to a client, because these are retail customers, and then you can't just hide behind say that customer agreed. No, because you have not given the right level of risk that customer has asked for his end of retirement fund, and you went and invested in an investment where customers may be keen to get more interest, but doesn't mean that you need to suggest everything. So like that, the Unfair Contract Terms Act is applicable here, and more than that, the regulators are looking at fair conduct of what you do. So Unfair Contract Terms Act is only one thing which is extreme, and the regulators' terms here are more strict than Unfair Trade Contract Act also, because it says you need to make sure that you have to get to the customer's actual level and provide proper advice and investment matching the customer's status. Customers don't have a specific knowledge. They will say that if you're asking the customer to invest in product A, which is low risk but low return as well, with his pension fund, but if he says no, you are asking me to invest in a 5% return investment, whereas there are 10% return ones, then you need to make sure that you suggest the right one and get the customer right investment. And records of communication, this documentation has to be maintained, and agreement to retain long, because if in that kind of same situation, if a customer insists, no, I don't want 5% secured investment, I need to pay my bills, so I need to go for 10% one, and you need to get proper documentation, say that this is what we suggested, this is what we explained, we told them it is not fair for him to have this kind of product, but he still insists he is all right to go for this product, and you need to make sure that all communications are recorded and kept for as long as it is required. So records for communication and agreement to retain, depending on different levels, for 5 years duration of relationship, and certain pension transfers indefinitely, because you know that they are very critical, because even their kids can come and say that, no, you have advised wrongly to my father who is late, my father, so that's why he has lost all these things, and all these things can happen. So indefinitely it has to be whole, and there are general limitations on documentations on data retention, so that has to be followed. In addition to that, there may be certain other rules coming with fair trade to be retained in terms of communications, that are provided, because communication is not coming under data retention, like not personal information or anything like that. But this has to be kept specifically for this investment advice for communication as well. Otherwise, they will come back and you will be liable for providing wrong information to the customer if you have not recorded properly and kept the records of the communications.